Hello everyone. Today I wish to talk about Fallout, its perks, and the crafting system. I'm hoping that with my discussion that I can give you a better idea of how to build your character in Fallout. So let's get started with that. As far as the crafting system is concerned, it does take a considerable amount of time to do because of the fact that it does take various perks to make it happen, or resources. So let's look at that. As far as settlements are concerned, it all depends on the location. This is Sanctuary, so Sanctuary is reliant on these water pumps because these water purifiers require to be built in an active water source, which I'll show a bit later. So, unfortunately, for Sanctuary to grow on the water, you have to use these water pumps, which require you to build them in soil. And it can be a bit annoying to do so, and especially because these is concrete. Concrete is not very easy to get early on. It does build up later on, but it's still kind of annoying. So the only settlement that ever uses water purifiers is the Starlight Drive Inn, I think. I have yet to see other settlements, but so far that's the only one I've ran to. So water purifier industrial gives 40 points of water, which requires a rank in science, which is a intelligence perk. It requires 6 intelligence to do so. The other benefit of having science is when you're doing turrets, because laser turrets run off of a different set of materials than the machine gun turrets do. As you can see here, they use the very rare nuclear material and fiber optics and a bunch of others. Machine gun turrets require steel circuitry gear and oil. Oil is hard to come by, not only just for these turrets, but also for making guns. So really the only thing that science would do for you is give you more flexibility to create defenses, because the thing with Fallout is that
Strong getting
raiders will
hungry.
select
Want
your
someone to eat.
settlements for a raid.
So much want.
And that's indicated when you come here to your Pip-Boy, you click Data and Workshops. If you see a triangle with a exclamation mark in the middle, then that means raiders are thinking about attacking the settlement, and you have a certain amount of time to get more defenses up before that happens. Now, I think location also has a factor in the defense and or raider interest, because you'll notice that Sanctuary Hill only has 56 defense, and it doesn't have that triangle with the exclamation on it. Starlight Drive In did. Shortly before I did this recording, I put up one more turret, increasing its defense to 88, and it finally went away. So I think it's a combination of location and the amount of resources slash people that are available at that particular place.
Want to
So
do
science
a
just basically makes
party.
it so you have more options in terms of defending the settlement and, of course, making the settlement bigger. The other thing that comes into factor when dealing with crafting is stores. You can actually make stores like a trader and things, but this requires um, usually one of two perks, as you can see here. The highest end, which is the Trading Emporium, for this particular trader, requires 2 Cap Collector perks and 2 Local Leader perks to do so. And I believe that's at 6 Charisma if I remember right. Now, you may be sitting here thinking that's a lot, and it really is. Investing into doing a settlement is a very time-consuming process, not just in the perks, but the amount of time it takes to um, make it easily defendable. As you can see here with Sanctuary Hills, I have erected a fence and a lot of metal walls in place. And of course, to get the very small portion of this fence that was not covered, I put up wooden fence posts, which is actually a tip in itself that I've learned to do on my own that I wish to pass on to you all. Because these only cost 2 wood each, so they're not very hard to build. So they're great for plugging small holes like that. But yeah, let me go ahead and show you this entire defense wall. So as you can see, I utilized the ruined houses of Sanctuary to lower the amount of walls I needed, as well as the shrubbery. The hedgerows here act as a natural defense. As you can see here, I can't get past that with the way the wall is. And I've done this all over Sanctuary. I found choke points or um, places where it would be harder for enemies to get in. As you can see here, this wall has been erected between two houses. Another choke point I use to uh,
Fist was
keep
weak,
this
leader.
as small as
Strong
possible
bad to be rid of him.
in terms of gaps. I did the same over here in the
So many
cul-de-sac section of
humans.
the
Not many super
sanctuary
mutants.
portion. As you can see here, there's steel walls
Humans all
in
look
front of these
funny.
things, and over here as well. And then I erected a wall between these two houses, and finally one right there. So as you can see, you can use natural choke points to your advantage, and I'll show you how to create choke points when the terrain is uneven. Because these walls, unfortunately, require a somewhat even terrain to make it happen. Now, the other thing I meant to test, which I'll do live while I'm here, is see if these walls are indestructible. Because if they are, then that means that they are indestructible and you don't need to use steel walls. Steel walls take 10 steel, so they're very expensive to do each, which is something I learned very early on. But let's test this just to see if they are indeed indestructible. It's not like I saved this, so I'm not worried. But let's see. Yep, they look to be indestructible to me. So that's Sanctuary. Now, as far as the settlement stuff goes, I honestly don't think it's really necessary. As far as I can tell, the only benefit of having a large settlement is for the trading routes and the trading places,
World is
because
bigger than
in
strong
the
blue.
loading screen tips, they did say that the um, store for the clinic can um, lower your radiation levels and heal you, is what I saw on the loading screen. I don't know how true that is because I'm not this far up. Um, but I don't think I will get that far, honestly, because this whole settlement thing just takes too long for the for what you get out of it. So with that in mind, let's move to the other settlements so I can show you just how I crafted those and turned those into easier crafting times. Now you'll notice I avoided Red Rocket Truck Stop because this is just not worth the effort and time. It's boundary walls are too uneven and it's on uneven terrain and most of it's pavement, so it's really hard to get stuff in there. But let's move on to Tempine's Bluff. You'll add the settlement to your list when you do the Minimin quests, and I'll show you how I made choke points out of that because it's an uneven terrain type thing. So you'll notice the first thing I did was I realized that I could not fit um, wooden walls in a curved area of this, and as you can see, I used fence posts to do so. And as you can see, I can't get past these in any shape or form, so this will keep the raiders from coming this way. I did the exact same thing over here in front of the shack, in which I used nothing but wooden fence posts to make a choke point out of that. And then I put two turrets right here. So they're guarding this choke point right there. And then for the rest of this, I used wooden walls for the most part. And here's another line of wooden fence posts I used because of uneven terrain. But I took the wooden walls and I went all the way over to this house. And then for the holes behind this house where it was possible to come in, I put fence posts there as well. And then on the other side, I used two wooden fence posts here, and then I just built wooden walls all the way over there. Now, because I've never tested wooden walls, let's go and chunk a missile at it, just to see how, yep. So I think you can use wooden walls. I'm pretty confident of that now, because they're indestructible, apparently, even to missiles. So let's look at my largest settlement, which is Starlight Drive-In, and then we'll go back to Sanctuary, so I can show you the crafting side. All right, this is Starlight Drive-In. Now, as you can see, this is an industrial water purifier sitting right here. As I said, these have to be built on water sources. This is what I meant, is something like this. They have to be built on top of a pool or a lake or something. And I think Starlight Drive-In is the only one that has something like this. Um, Industrial purifiers require a medium generator. As you can see, it's plugged into this. The settlement recruitment beacon, which is used to increase the population of settlers in this particular settlement, is running off a small generator. I did put the Brahmin feeding trowel over there, and you'll notice there was one in Sanctuary. As for housing these settlers, I put them in these steel shacks, which I added doors and stairs to. There's 40 beds in total, 39 of them being in these steel shacks. There's one that was already here at the top of this diner, I guess it is. So, as for this area, this was a lot harder to do because there wasn't really a choke point. It was an open area. So what I had to do in order to um, make enough um, of a choke point was by building a wall starting at the very back of this um, theater storage area, I guess. And you'll notice I did the exact same thing. I did wooden fence posts to cover the gap, and then I just built steel walls going all the way across, and I just kept going and going until I reached a choke point of some sort, or a stopping point, or another fence, or what have you. And this area right here is the entire farm for this particular settlement. As you can see, there's the steel wall starting at the other side of the storage unit for this theater. A lot of these plants do require to be put in dirt. I think Razor Green is one of the few that don't require that. I haven't really tested that, but I'm fairly positive because you'll notice that this Razor Green is kind of sitting on concrete a little bit. But this plants over here, this is the closest I could get them to concrete. Whereas that Razor Green is just sitting right on top of it. But yeah, so the wall goes from that back of the storage unit all the way to this metal shack. And then to section this off, I put a wire fence right there because I realized that it was too large to make use of wooden fence posts, but it was also too small to be using another metal wall, so I just put that there. And you can see I went all the way around. Um, Now, as for defenses, you'll notice I have nothing but turrets here. A few of them are lasers, a few of them are heavy machine guns, as you can see here. Now, you will notice in the build menu for the defenses that there is a guard post. This requires a settler to be there, and I don't think it's worth using a settler for 2 defense, because each turret is worth 8. And settlers can be used for more important things like manning the scavenging station or one of those things. So I don't think it's worth it. So that's how you defend a settlement a little bit better. Now, before I end the settlement side, I would like to also give you a little tip about placing things. Because placing walls and stuff can actually be time consuming to get it just right. Because if you don't do it right, there'll be a hole in your defense or equivalent. And the mistake I made when I first started out was I was not aware that you could just simply move objects instead of scrapping them. I thought you had to scrap objects and then rebuild it. But that's not the case in Fallout, and I'll show that here real quick with a wooden fence post. So let's see, we're gonna put up a, oops, wire fence post. We're just gonna place it right here. So you'll notice it's built here in the middle of town, right? Well, let's just say you don't like it there. So what you do is you pull up the build menu, which you can do by holding down V or by simply coming to the workstation and clicking on it. So you'll notice it's asking me if I want to build another wire fence. Obviously I don't want to do that, so you hit tab to cancel, and it leaves you in the build menu. Now, this post, you'll see that there's a E for select. You just simply hit E, and you move it wherever you want to. And then you hit E to place it again, and then you hit R to scrap. Now, this whole placing and scrapping thing is important because when you first look at Sanctuary, there's a lot of things here you can scrap, such as maple trees, picket fence, cars, tires, and that's where you'll get the vast majority of your resources to start a settlement. So that's how you do all of this. Now let's look at crafting, so I can hopefully get to perks. As far as crafting is concerned, science only affects high-tech mods and energy weapons. High-tech mod being
Just get new
night
ones.
scopes and things of that nature, as you'll see with my
Someday,
sniper rifle
the
here.
super mutants
I have a
kill
long scope built in
everything.
this, but as you can see, all these night vision scopes require a rank in science. The recon scope does as well, so those all require science. So as far as guns are concerned, that's where you'll see the science needed. But for the most part, it's all gun nut stuff. As you can see here, um, a 50 cal receiver is rank 3 gun nut. My calibrated power receiver, calibrated powerful receiver was rank 2 gun nut. I'm having issues talking today. Um, and so on and so forth. Same with the silencer and things of that nature. So that's the difference with guns is silence only affects energy weapons, really, and scopes. Guns are just affected by gun nut. Now let's look at power armor. I honestly don't think power armor is all that great, but there are probably people out there who want to use power armor, so I'll go and give you a quick tip on this, or at least show you things with this. Now, in this menu, you'll notice that on the left-hand side of any given part, it will say its damage resistance, the shield being physical, and the lightning bolt looking thing being energy, and of course the radiation symbol. Below that it says health. Now, anytime power armor is damaged, you have to come here and repair them, which you'll do by hitting T. Now, modifying any one of these, you'll notice that you can do these different models and stuff, and they require varying perks. For the most part, it just requires armor on this end and one rank of science. But when you start getting into material mods or things of that nature, you'll start seeing a difference in that, such as prism shielding and explosive shielding. These require science to do. Explosive shielding giving you more damage resistance to explosives, and prism shielding increasing energy resistance. Lead plating for this in particular only requires armor perk, so that's not a big deal. The miscellaneous mods do require science for the most part, as you can see here. Now, I imagine that later on, power armors do require science to use science so you can do like jetpacks and things. I am aware they are in this game, but I'm not making the effort to go and fish it out because I don't use power armor, so I don't see the point in investing my time in something that I don't use. But let's look at the armor itself, the normal armor. So as you can see, I'm still using metal chest pieces because I haven't found combat armor, even though I'm around the level to be finding them. But you'll notice that the best armor resistance requires just armor perk. As for the miscellaneous, a lot of this is going to be armor, except for lead lined, and I am biocom mesh. The rest require armor. Now, lead line, as nice as it is, the problem is it requires a lot of lead, and lead is not easy to come by. So with the crafting now talked about, let's look at perks. Now, the perks that I think are the most useful out of this collection is the gun nut, obviously, hacker, locksmith, demolition expert, scrapper, and of course whatever weapon specialty you want to go, either rifleman, commando, or gunslinger. You have the three options there. Um, the struggle for most people is figuring out which gun thing to go. I honestly think that Rifleman is the best because Rifleman works with non-automatic rifles. This includes sniper rifles and the pipe rifle and things of that nature. As long as you don't put an automatic receiver into a weapon, it will fall under Rifleman so long as it's classified as a rifle. And I think that the sniper rifle and other things are your greatest friend. Um, Especially because the pipe rifle, which I'll show here, uses 38. You will find a lot of 38 ammo. As you can see, I haven't found a lot of 10mm ammo, even up to this level, and also because I've used a lot. But despite my heavy use of 38, I'm still at 520. Um, the sniper rifle uses the 308 standard. I haven't had to use too many of these because of a high rifleman perk. I've been able to one shot, one kill most things that I've ran into at this point. So the ammo is building up, no matter how much I use it. So I like the rifleman perk. But that's because I'm used to being a marksman, so I can work with tapping the mouse really fast. As for other perks, toughness is a good one. Um, Lead belly just makes it so you don't take radiation from um, food and water. So I guess that can be a bonus in itself to make things easier. Although at the same time, you can just come to the water pump here in Sanctuary, the ones that you built, and just refill your HP that way, or find a bed. One or the other really works. So I don't think lead belly has much of a use. It's more or less a convenience thing. Life Giver is definitely awesome because it increases the amount of HP you have, and also the third rank gives you a small HP regeneration bonus. So that's pretty awesome. The Lone Wanderer perk is another interesting one if you don't plan to have a companion with you, because increases your carry weight and you take less damage. That requires 3 charisma, so I don't have that unlocked yet. Armor is, of course, another excellent one. Um, I'm beginning to think Rad Resistant, which is your Endurance 6 perk, is actually useful because, as you saw, lead is pretty rare. So this gives you 30 radiation resistance in total just naturally. So that would make it to roughly about 40 radiation resistance, assuming you're still wearing your Vault 111 jumpsuit under your armor. So that's actually pretty awesome. And then I think another 10 or 15 comes from a assault gas mask or something like that. So you can stack it up without power armor, and I think that'd probably be more than enough. Um, of course, better criticals is another perk that is useful. That's luck 6, which is down here. Um, the critical hit meter does take a little while to come back, but it's totally worth it when you're doing 2.5 times damage, because that's what the better criticals perk gives you on max rank. Um, if you're planning to use sneak, then obviously the sneak perk is useful. I haven't seen a use for it in open terrain because most of the targets I've been able to pick off with a sniper rifle were at such a distance that they weren't able to find me, even without sneak. So um, I I just haven't found a use for it. Um, some other good ones would be um, the hip fire thing. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. Steady aim, which is strength 7. A lot of the enemies that come running at you, such as the super mutant dogs and those things, it is kind of annoying to try to iron sight shoot them because the problem is it slows you down. So as you're trying to shoot them, they're getting closer and closer to you. So if you're hip firing it, it'll be a little bit easier on you. So I think that's an interesting perk to have if you can get that far. Um, Refractor, which is energy resistance, it's perception 7. Because it takes so much perception, I mean, it would be nice if you could get there, but I honestly don't think it will fit into most builds. And honestly, perception itself is not a very useful special in itself. Perception only increases your accuracy and VATS. It's not like endurance or strength, which is vital because strength increases your melee damage and your carry weight. Endurance increases your overall HP. So those have a better thing to it. The other awesome perk is Medic because it increases the usefulness of Stimpaks and Radaway, obviously, but more importantly, at the higher ranks, it gets close to instant heal and also almost full HP heal at later ranks. And this can be increased by finding the books related to it. There's a lot of books in the Wasteland or skill magazines, whatever you want to call them, that give you a certain perk. Like Junktown Vendor, I think is the name of that one particular magazine. It gives you better prices at the merchant, and that's a permanent bonus. So there's one that affects each end of the game. Um, Bloody Mess is your other great one. This just increases your overall bonus damage, so that's pretty awesome. Um, Demolition Expert, I don't know if I mentioned that. I've been mentioning a lot of perks I can't remember. This is pretty awesome because it allows you to make fragmentation grenades, and at the second rank it gives you a throwing arc 4 grenades. So that's pretty awesome because frag grenades can clear out um, a good group of enemies, and I've found them especially useful for groups of feral ghouls in buildings. Um, Chunking one of those is usually a problem solver on that end. Um, I believe that's all the perks really because a lot of these are just convenient stuff like strong back, which increases your carry weight, heavy gunner, which increases your heavy gun damage. Um, Oh, no, wait, I forgot one. Adamantium skeleton. This is awesome. It requires endurance 7. Um, it does make your limbs indestructible at the end rank from what I've been able to read. So that's extremely useful. But yeah, other than that, most of these are just convenience and not really important stuff. And a lot of them require too much of a special to actually make use of them. So I'll finish this off by letting you know that you can spend into your specials up here um, by clicking on them, and you can use perk points to do so. It's kind of like intense training. Now it's just you click on this instead of clicking intense training. That's the only difference. The other way you can increase your special is by bobbleheads, and they are scattered across the wasteland. A few of the bobbleheads are um, in areas that are high level, specifically the luck and I think it's the agility bobblehead. I think yeah, it's one of those two. No, okay, that's right. Yeah, so it's agility and luck. They're in a 45 plus zone, so it may be really hard to rely on that aspect. The bobbleheads you find within the first few levels are going to be your perception and intelligence ones. Um, you can find the perception bobblehead in the museum when you do the quest for Museum of Freedom. And then the intelligence bobblehead comes from the Boston Public Library. The Boston Public Library, that one is combat-wise a bit harsh because it can go one of two ways. Number one, you can come in through the subway, but if you come in through the subway, it puts you in the lower levels of the Boston Public Library where there are super mutants sitting there, and they have that particular area fortified. Or you can get advanced lockpicking and come in through a side door towards the back of the building itself. You'll have to disarm a trap sitting right in front of the door, but otherwise it puts you right near the protectrons and machine guns and the hallway. So when you get in there, you want to immediately dart for the hallway because the super mutants will spawn in the door you just came in, and also because you don't want to aggravate the protectrons and machine guns. You want to try to pick those off at a distance as best as possible. So a recap of what I said that was for perks that were useful were toughness, any one of the gun perks that you select, the life giver perk, armor, gun nut, hacker, locksmith, demolition expert, scrapper, rad resistant, medic, bloody mess, better criticals, um, and the steady aim. That right there is your perfect perks for doing a gun build. Perhaps in a later video I will cover energy weapons and tips and tricks about that. But for right now, that's the most I have for you. I hope this helps you in your Fallout questing.